The highlights and lowlights of my Halloween drive with FSD Beta 10.3.1. The car on the left is going to make a left into a business here. So the car is going to do a nice maneuver around it, get quickly into the left lane. We've got the traffic light. It's all clear. Makes a fairly good turn, but it started to slow down, so I had to take over the accelerator a little bit to push it through, to keep traffic going. Here is a really bad left. It stops way too short of the left that it needs to. It needs to get out there and wait like a human would. Now it's stuck. This car comes through, and now a red light has changed from yellow to red. I have to take over the accelerator to get through that intersection. So that's a really kind of poorly handled left. Here's another bad example of traffic circles. It's going to wait for the car on the left to see what it's doing. Once that clears, it's going to make the right. It needs to take the second exit off of this circle. It spends way too much time just creeping out here. It needs to be much more aggressive. It needs to be on the left side to keep going around the roundabout. Again, it gets lost, kind of gets stuck here, can't figure out what it wants to do. And now it's going to bail to the right and miss its navigation. So traffic circles are really, really tough for beta FSD. I have a lot of failures with traffic circles. 90-degree left fail. We're going to come up. The car's going to start slowing down way too much. I've got some traffic behind me. It almost stalls out, so I have to take over and make that left turn to keep traffic going. When I came back home, I turned around again and redid this traffic circle, waited for there was no traffic behind me so I could let the car play out what it was going to do. It didn't slow down and deaccelerate as much this time, although about here it starts to kind of struggle to make that left. Makes it, but it needs to be much more confident and not as jerky. Here's a really nice job by Beta FSD. It needs to get over 2 lanes pretty quickly to make a left. It finds an opening, gets into this lane, and then pretty quickly finds the other opening, gets into the turn lane really nicely. We flow right into the turn signal. This was one of the better lefts of the day. It does an aggressive, really nicely flowing turn, not any jerkiness. And then it did something in a couple seconds that kind of surprised me. I have it on aggressive setting, and I kind of expected to stay in this lane. I don't know if the truck ahead caused it to do this, but about now it's going to decide to get into the left lane, which was perfectly fine. I thought that was a great aggressive example, nice human type of driving. We're going to need to get over to the right to make it onto the interstate. The car probably should have gone to the right behind that red car. It chose to stay in this lane, and now we're really blocked up with all this traffic. So the car's put itself in somewhat of a pickle. I was determined to let the car play it out even if it missed the interstate. But once we get through this light, I thought we might having somebody turning to the right and give us a better chance to get over. I accelerated manually, maybe hurt our efforts in some ways. But the car does find a way to get into the right lane. It still needs to get over one more. We'll have a truck back to our right in a second. Now this truck has gone by. Beta FSD finds a slot, moves over, and then does a good job of accelerating into the turn and up to the on-ramp onto the interstate. In this example, the car needs to get over a couple of lanes. It's going to make a left turn in like maybe a quarter of a mile. This lane on the right is going to end. I don't know if this could be a mapping issue. We'll get the green light. The car does a good job of accelerating off of the green light. I didn't put any accelerator pedal into it. But still in a lane that's ending. It should see these lines, the arrows. Finally decides it's going to get over because this lane's ending. Still needs to get over one more. I have no traffic back to my left. Be a perfect time to make that maneuver, but it just stays in this lane. I think far too long. I've got about 1,000 yards, 1,000 feet to get to the left. There is a middle turn lane. The car is going to make the decision to get in that middle turn lane, which is great. And then it's going to try its best to get into the business. going to wait for this car. It's going to start off well, making a fairly aggressive turn. Once it gets in, maybe it sees this car and really starts to slow down. I press the accelerator just to keep traffic moving, but I'll give it an A for effort. Here's a fail of navigation, waiting too long. This car to the right's entering from the off-ramp. It either needs to get behind it or power up and get in front of it because our exit's coming up really quickly. Now it's stuck. It can't make it into the right to get onto the interstate, so it's failed our navigation. We'll have to reroute to get back to the interstate. So that needed some better planning, or I'm not quite sure what Beta could have done differently, but it was definitely a fail. At the light ahead is a pedestrian crossing the traffic against the green light. The car spots him early, and once it's into the intersection, sets off a warning, but I can tell he's not going to come into our lane. He's kind of threading the needle through this traffic, and I have people behind me, and I was really afraid the car was going to really slam on its brakes, potentially causing a rear end situation. So I pressed the accelerator to power through. Kind of a tricky, dangerous situation. Here, Beta gets itself in trouble stopping way too short of the stop sign. The car on the left, its turn, it goes. It's our turn now, but we're so far back, this car on the white car on the left thinks I'm far back, so he's going to go. Now we're out of sequence because now the car is going to wait for the car across from me. He's waiting for me. Beta's not going to go, so I have to take over and make the left. Note the nice Model 3 to your right. That car is going to be making a right, coming up behind me at the traffic light. Unfortunately, the car is centering itself, thinking this is one big lane, but locally, people treat it as two lanes. People stay to the left, so people on the right can come up and make a right on red. Beta FSD somehow needs to understand these local rules because it's really aggravating for people behind me. I'm hoping that my Model 3 person was able to intuit that I was driving Beta and forgave me for this transgression.